With AMovieGuy.com. I am here with the director of Hold Your Fire, Stefan Forbes. Fantastic film. Might be, I have to say might, I guess, but it's one of the best documentaries of 2022. Fantastic film. I was just like in awe of this movie. Absolutely gripping. You worked on episodes of Frontline, and your last documentary was 2008. Why? And it was a massive hit, I have to mention that. But why the long gap between that and Hold Your Fire? I know you've been doing other stuff, so
yeah.
But why the long gap until making a next documentary feature?
Great question.
Yeah.
We worked a bunch on bringing Boogie Man to the big screen, moved out to Hollywood, got an agent, got a manager, started writing screenplays.
Yeah.
And then I had 2 kids.
Oh, awesome.
So if you know anything about Hollywood,
yeah,
a lot of screenplays never get made.
Yeah.
Like, there are guys that make a really good living, and women.
Yeah.
20 years, make millions of dollars, buy a beach house, and they don't have a single credit.
Right.
You go to IMDb and it's blank.
Right.
Like, maybe they did all rewrites.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
huge Hollywood movies and never got their name on it.
Right.
That was a little similar to me.
Yeah.
I wrote a bunch of stuff. I had kids. I kind of called it the lost decade for a while.
Yeah.
But I was working on this doc on and off in between screenplays. I just couldn't get it out of my mind.
Yeah.
Meeting Harvey, I just started interviewing him when I was back in New York City. I'd bring a camera over to his house, hang out for like 5 hours.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get this story out of my mind. And it took a super long time to make this movie pop.
Yeah.
I'm really inspired by those old 70s movies like French Connection and, Serpico,
Love it.
Pelham 1, 2, 3, obviously Dog Day Afternoon. When I found the story, I'm like, damn, this is a chance to really tell a gritty New York story from the 70s, but I wanted to tell it in 2020 style.
Yeah.
Which would be not just talking to the cops,
Right.
but everyone, the hostages and even the gunmen. And I couldn't track them down, man. I had to go up to Attica. I had to talk to people. I had to do some detective work to even find Shua Ibrahim.
Yeah.
And I had to get to know people and establish some trust before I could really tell the story.
Yeah. Well, and I want to segue to sort of a question that I had for later, but you talk about those movies like Dog Day Afternoon and French Connection, things of that nature. What did it cross your mind to even think, well, this should be a feature, not a documentary, or was it like, I don't think a feature film would do justice to this story, right? I mean,
I love to hear the real story first.
Yeah.
I want to talk to people. I want to find out what really happened.
Yeah.
I don't want to write when you don't really know the story, you write cliches.
Yeah.
You write other cop movies.
Right.
You want to really hear what happened, get people's voices, learn their character. So in a way, this was research.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of interest right now in turning this into a limited series.
Yeah.
Where we can really delve into some of these characters. Why were they in that store?
Yeah.
What was that web of violence that was slowly surrounding Shua Ibrahim,
Yeah.
who came from Brownsville, the Knuckle Game, home of Mike Tyson, Riddick Bowe, heavyweight champs.
Yeah.
He's trying to break out of that and be spiritual and go on a path to Islam.
Right.
He wanted to be a healer. He wanted to bring peace to his community. Instead, he's pulled back into a web of violence. He has no protection from the cops. He has no role models to really help him negotiate this world. And so that's a fascinating thing we didn't really get to delve into. There's all these threads and there's interweaving stories and there's even super dramatic stuff I didn't even have time to put in the movie.
Right.
So
Yeah.
hopefully we get a chance to do a narrative version.
That would be awesome. Yeah, that would be cool. Well, so watching a documentary like this today, it's impossible to not relate to the world that we're currently living in. 3 mass shootings over the weekend. It's impossible not to talk about it. I found it fascinating to watch the point of view of the police officers. And for me personally, my sister is a Chicago detective, but for me personally, I tend to feel that a lot of police officers, and you kind of in some ways show it from these guys, that the New York police officers that you have, is that they almost don't even want to really help. They don't want to sort of be the change that they're supposed to be in a lot of ways. It's more about being a part of a club and being a part of a selected band of brothers in a way. Do you see, when you look at a story like this, is there a way that police officers could view it and say to themselves, we have to change, there has to be something different that we do and go about how we do our policing in general? It's a tough question. I mean, yeah.
No, it's a great question.
Yeah.
These killings that we've seen are a wound to everyone, really. You know, while I was making this movie, with the solution to police overuse of violence in it.
Yeah.
I had to watch Breonna Taylor get killed, and Elijah McClain, and George Floyd.
Yeah.
And now it's 10 people murdered in Buffalo.
Right.
You know, and the cops practically shake the guy's hand and buy him a hamburger when they're arresting him.
Right.
A person of color waves a gun around and they get whacked.
Yeah.
So we have huge problems.
Yeah.
They go back past the invention of policing, back to slavery and the white domination and patriarchy that our country was founded on. I'm from Scotland, man. We're the most violent people in the world.
Yeah.
That's the culture we came from.
Yeah.
Where we had our sheep in the front yard. That's our whole bank account. So you go to sleep at night, if somebody is even thinking about taking your bank account, we were acculturated to performative acts of violence. We had to not just kill you, we had to kill your whole family. Right. Go to your glen and murder your whole clan. And we brought that system here, and it's oppressive. It creates unhappy people in one of the most violent societies in the world. We're maniacs, and we're flooded with guns, and we got to do something. The shock to me was that there was a solution in 1973, and we've had to watch all these people die and our society get more and more violent. So this is urgent to me and Fab Five Freddy and all my partners. We want to get this film out there, and if people see it, if you even watch the trailer, please pass it on.
Yeah.
Send it to your friends, send them a link, because we have to spread the word to demand change from our elected officials. Mayors need to fund this program. Every law enforcement officer in America who carries a gun deserves this training.
Yeah.
It saves cops' lives.
Yeah.
It's good for them too. They can go home and hug their kids.
Right.
They don't have to be macho and solve everything with a gun. It's done.
Yeah, definitely. And that's kind of, a lot of that is what I was like picking up from this documentary, where it was just like, there's answers and solutions that continue to not even be accepted in a lot of ways. And you talk about like that masculine sort of approach, right? It seems to just be constantly hitting their heads against the wall and expecting different results. But I don't know. It's very, again, like I said, it's very important to watch this film, and it's really powerful.
Thank you. And I would say, you know, something we talk about is the man code.
Yeah.
That we all got.
Yeah.
In an interaction, never let anybody put you down below them. You got to dominate.
Right.
You got to control things. You've got to never admit vulnerability.
Right.
You got to use force if necessary. You got to get your respect. You know, how do we talk about a football player that's good?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he could take a lot of punishment. You know, the idea that you can inflict and absorb violence is central to masculinity in America. And we got to change that.
Yeah.
We got to, with our friends and with our sons, we got to raise young men without dominating them.
Yeah.
Because as any parent will tell you, if you teach your child the language of domination, it'll come right back to you. They resent you. How many fathers can't really talk to their sons? So they end up resenting you and fighting back. The same way police go into communities with this domination attitude, disrespecting people, and they create the resistance to them. They create communities that hate them and don't trust them.
Right.
And they There's studies out there that show that the way you police can actually cause more violence. So we're trying to break all that toxic masculinity down. It's not just a hashtag. It's really true.
Seriously, yeah.
And it causes pain for us.
Yeah.
Men are carrying around a lot of grief and pain, and you see that in the movie. Cops talk about unacknowledged mental illness and trauma. For decades, the only therapist that the police had was named Jack Daniels.
Right, yeah.
That doesn't work.
No, yeah, and I still feel like that is still going on. There's still like a stigma towards like mental health and therapy and things that need to be done for self-care, even if you, especially for police officers, because they are working in difficult situations, and they if they were doing things differently and getting the mental health, needs that they could get, I think the results would be hopefully a little bit different, right? So documentary filmmaking, greats for me, Errol Morris, Herzog, both of them seem to find a balance between filmmaker and almost journalist in a way. For this film, for Hold Your Fire, do you try to merge the two, or what's your sort of approach as a director for this?
I think journalists often respond to my work.
Yeah.
Like, I've won a couple journalism awards.
Yeah.
I think they see it as journalism.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, doc filmmakers can be very activist oriented and very issue oriented, and they want to show one side and make an argument and win that argument.
Yeah.
I do too. I'm a pontificating schmuck like everyone else, but I get bored with that in a film. And I feel like if you're just preaching to the converted, there's no way to make social change. I want to engage people who don't agree with me.
Right.
I want to pique their interest. I want to put things in my films that challenge them and engage them and talk to the other side. I love Errol and love Herzog. I used to work with Errol when I was just coming up in the business.
Oh, that's awesome.
I worked on a thing he did. It was a dramatization of a post office killing.
Oh, wow.
And they did a whole recreation of this guy coming out with a machine gun and shooting up this whole post office. And I just remember Errol coming out and going, "More blood! More blood!"
Yeah, sounds right on cue for
it's Errol.
Morris. Yeah,
it's good times.
Yeah. And also too, I wanted to ask you about sort of the, in terms of your approach. You talked about it a little bit. You've got the police officers, you've got the hostages, you've got the men who did the held up the sporting goods store. You show all sides, and I think like a very important thing for documentary filmmaking is an ability to make sure you show all sides, but also sort of have a message, and be neutral, right? This like sort of down the middle. Were you worried at any point that you were going to be leaning one way more than the other, or that it would start to turn into, all right, this is becoming just a puff piece, or not even a puff piece, but like something that is just geared towards a certain audience and not going to get the other side to listen? Was there?
Yeah, I never want to do that.
Yeah.
I'm always concerned about that.
Yeah.
And I'm always concerned about giving everyone a chance to talk.
Yeah.
And in Boogie Man especially, a lot of conservatives loved my film, even though you could look at it as, a lot of evidence that Lee Atwater felt that he had committed these moral crimes by lying to America,
right,
and doing racist messaging. But I let their side talk. I was interested in how they see Atwater, and they have takes on him that the left, I am begging people on the left to listen to and pay attention to.
Right.
They know a lot of things. They know a lot of things about speaking with emotion and speaking about values that Democratic politicians still don't understand, and that's why they're losing elections. They're about to lose the Senate because they don't understand Lee Atwater,
right,
and they don't watch that film critically and really listen to the other side. I'm a big believer in really listening to all sides, and cops knew that, I'm curious about them. I'm curious about the wounds they carry. I'm curious about why they sometimes don't want to negotiate.
Yeah.
What stands in their way? This idea of negotiating with criminals, of being in a situation to win. They say, you became a cop to win, guys say in the film.
Yeah.
I want to know what they're thinking. Because if you want to make social change, you need to really listen. And that was another big message of Harvey's: deep listening, radical empathy. This is how Harvey approached the world. So why wouldn't I use that approach while I was making a film about him and talk to all sides? In many ways, this film is hostage negotiation between these conflicting sides in America that are in such a standoff that has turned violent in our society with January 6th.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting too, because I thought the most neutral character that you could have found was the clerk at the sporting goods store, right? And he's the owner of the sporting goods store. He has this amazing moment of where he sees that one of the guys who was holding them up, the quiet guy, he called him, right? And he's like, this guy, he had nothing really to do with it. And he almost sees both sides of the story, that yes, it's a terrible thing that they're doing, but also some of these guys don't deserve to go to prison for the rest of their lives. How did you contact him? How did you get a hold of him? And what what was that like for you, saying, okay, this is the guy that's the middle ground between both sides?
I always try to find that guy who is the talker.
He's pure New York,
pure old school Brooklyn.
He's
just, I love the way he speaks. I feel like this film should get a grant from the Smithsonian. Because I preserved, the culture of Brooklyn.
Yeah.
But I love Jerry, and the Jerry you saw in the media was stage managed by the policemen's union.
Wow.
It seemed like Jerry hated the gunmen and he wanted them locked up and the key thrown away. Yeah. And I was shocked when I actually got to know him and finally sat down and talked to him, how much empathy and warmth he had for those guys. And how shocked he was by this ridiculous prison sentence that never did anything.
Right.
It didn't protect the victims. And what another big thing I learned on this movie was that we have a punitive system of justice in this country. It is not victim-centered.
Right.
And many victims of trauma, or harmed parties as we call them, don't want people to be punished and locked up and thrown away the key. They actually want a community-centered model where they can face their person who harmed them, ask them, why did you do it? Reparations can be made. The person can apologize. They can do stuff. They can pay money. They can volunteer. They can be reintegrated into the community. And that was a shock to me to find out that Shoaib Ibrahim is doing that work.
Yeah.
He's working in restorative justice. Again, when you get down and you have a conversation that's a little more nuanced, it's kind of like what you were saying about journalism. I think documentary film is long-form journalism.
Yeah.
You can break through a lot of the cliches and the simplified versions of the story and the black and white thinking. What we're trying to do with this film is create messy conversations, go beyond the good guys and bad guys view of the world that a lot of cops have. They say, yeah, we caught the bad guys. I'm trying to poke them along with everyone else to let some shades of gray into this, where our human empathy can start to find solutions to some of these huge problems.
Awesome. All right, Stefan Forbes, thank you so much for talking with me. Your movie, Hold Your Fire, is fantastic. It's going to be coming out from IFC, so congratulations about that. It's very deserving of a big audience, and we hope more people get out to see it.
Thank you. And
Thank you.
If people can go to holdyourfirefilm.com, sign up for our mailing list. You are our link to the community. You guys are our ad campaign. We have a very small distributor. We're the underdog. But we need to get this message out there. So please share the trailer, sign up for our email list, and together we can get this message out there.
Awesome. Thanks so much.